All right. Okay, we're going. Okay, so we're going to talk about classroom management first.
Okay.
So let me turn this up here. Make sure my volume's up. So how did the software program content align with your instructional goals?
Well, I think the way that aligns the most is that when you to individualize. So in the individualized instruction. So it all has the core on it, which is awesome. But the way it aligns is how I'm supposed to adjust the core. And so that's harder for a teacher, but where it's already built into your program, and that's what the way I can provide individualized instruction for my students and adjustments and scaffolding.
Okay, good. So did you use the program to support or replace regular classroom instruction? Can you explain kind of?
Yeah, we use it to support.
Okay.
Not for regular instruction.
Okay, so more as support. Okay, so what adjustments did you make to integrate the software program into your instruction?
Okay, so I only have one time a week that I can go to the computer lab, so it takes the place of some of my instruction, but I don't use it for instruction. So we just go once a week, and the kids get to do individualized practice.
Okay. And then what steps did you take to ensure students use the program based on the program vendor's recommendations for weekly use?
Oh, we have scheduled time. So I do use it weekly because it's scheduled into my schedule. And it's scheduled into the school schedule.
Okay. Great. Okay, now these next questions have to do with your principal and vendor involvement. So
My what?
your principal and the vendor, like the person who gave you the program? Like the
I'm
company?
not sure I know a lot about that, but I'll try my best.
Okay. So in what ways did your principal support your use of the software program?
He makes it so that he built it into the schedule and makes sure that we all have our time. He makes it so that if I got mine's on Monday and if I miss my time, he's set up a system so that we can reschedule if you have one of your days off so that you can get your weekly minutes in. He comes in when we ask him to. We use iReady. We do a end of the term. I don't know what to call it. Test. When you finish the unit, and the district gives it on the iReady program, and he comes in and he talks us through the test and explains what our children are going to need to do. And if we have any questions, he's there and he helps us get in. Like we did have the one lady come and she came and gave us a lot of good information. So we did it at the beginning of the year, and then another one came. I can't remember, about a month ago, I think. And then, but if we have any questions and they're not available, he's really good at helping us with what we want to accomplish and how we need to adjust or whatever.
Okay, good. So that kind of answers some of this next question that says, how often did your principal check in with you about your students' use of the software program?
Oh, okay. Thank you. All right, perfect. Hey, thanks for doing that. Sorry. Yeah, and he checks into us when necessary, or and I'm not sure if he scheduled the second training or whatever, but he arranged it so that they could come to our PLC, so it could be more adapted to exactly what we needed rather than that whole group that we went with the last time. So we could ask her the questions we absolutely needed, and she helped us with a lot of things that we had questions on. So that was good planning. When he had it be smaller group, I liked that a lot better, and it was more beneficial for sure.
Oh, okay, good. So on a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 not at all involved and 5 extremely involved, how involved was your principal in supporting your use of the software program with students?
I'm going to say a 4 at least.
Okay. And
he really encourages it, and he keeps on us to get our time in, especially if you miss it. He'll remind you need to reschedule. Make sure you get your time in for the week.
Okay, great. And then how can the principal better support your use of the software program?
and I really don't know if it's, quote, feasible or whatever, but I would like more time in the computer lab to use it more often. And then I would like more time to look at my data. It's hard to find time to look at data because some of that, to go in and check their things is so individual. You have to go in at each student at a time, and I just need more time to do that.
Yeah, okay. That's good information. So now you kind of talked about this with your principal, but this is a specific question for vendors. It says, describe how the program vendor worked with you to support program implementation.
And are you talking the vendor is the person that came and gave us our training?
Yeah.
I don't, but I have met the vendor. But you're talking about the person that came and gave us the training?
Yeah.
Okay. So we had that beginning of the year training where she came in and talked with us, and then she gave us some ideas and things, but then she also left us all of our contact information if we needed to get in touch with her. However, I myself appreciated the second time the person came because it was, like I said, small group and individualized, and I'd already had a chance to I'd had a chance to use use the program with my class, and I knew what things I was weak in and what I needed more information on.
Good.
So I like the second training the best. Okay. They were both very beneficial, but the second one was more. It met my needs better.
Okay, so that probably goes along with this next question that says, what was effective or ineffective about this process?
Yeah, I like the individual the best. But, you have to have an overview, so I guess they both were good. I just really appreciated the one after the fact that they came back and helped us out.
Okay.
I appreciated that.
Okay, good. Okay, now this next section is more, we want kind of your input as far as recommendations you would give other teachers or people trying to implement this program. So say somebody else is trying to implement this program that never has. So maybe your best practice recommendations for it. Okay, so that's kind of where these questions are coming from. So what would be your, so describe for me your best practice recommendations for communicating expectations about how the software program should be implemented.
Okay, you need consistent daily practice on it, and you need consistent time where I really think you need consistent time that's assigned for just going in and reviewing that data. And we do have, quote, a TL facing, but it's filled with so much stuff that we don't even get to that part. So I think you need consistent time where you is specifically set aside to review the data and adjust the program as necessary for your kids. I think that's really important. And I really think teachers should have a little bit more leeway of how they'd like to use the program, because as I said before, my favorite time of ever using that was when I could divide my class up and excel my fast learners and spend extra time with my slower, almost there kids, the kids that were approaching. Yeah. So I think the most effective use that I've ever had with it was when I got to do that.
Okay, good. The next one says, describe any best practice recommendations you have for monitoring software use.
You've got to have time to get in there and look at your kids' scores.
Okay.
And really it's not, well, and we talked about this too. She told us, you could go in and adjust if your kids are clickers. We talked about clickers, and the idea she gave me for clickers worked really, really well. I did motivate my class that if I didn't have any clickers and I didn't get any of those warning signs, that we would have a reward. And my kids were so into that I didn't get any of those warning signs this time when they took the second test. So I think you have to really be aware of what's going on and and help motivate them. Even though the program itself is supposed to be self-motivating, I think as a teacher you need to be on top of that and be encouraging. As far as I know, when we were at Parkside, that they had for extra motivation, so the kids didn't become complacent. They had a graph and a chart where they kept track of finished and passed lessons for each child, and then after they passed so many, then they had a reward system. I think that built into the program by the teacher makes it a lot more effective and keeps the kids wanting to keep coming back.
Okay, great. Good information. Okay, next one says, please describe any best practice recommendations you have for classroom management and planning.
Okay, say that one more time.
Any best practice recommendations you have for classroom management and planning?
I noticed with my children, because we used to do shorter periods, which I liked better, but that was scheduling. It was a nightmare. So I noticed that I need to keep an eye out for when they're getting restless, and if I give them a break in between, because I have an hour to a half hour time, so we take a break in between, and I think my kids do it tons better. But I need to be aware of when they're ready to just take their eyes off the screen, do something different, and then come back to the screen. I think also that I need, for management, I don't usually have a really bad time. The kids like to be on it, so I don't have a lot of problems with that, but seating arrangement does make a difference, for sure.
Okay.
Those would be my two, I guess.
That's great. Yeah, this is good information. Okay, next one says, describe your best practice recommendations that you have for integrating the software program into classroom instruction.
I wished I had more time in the computer lab. I think you need that where you could adjust it and assign specific. So, like if you're teaching a concept in class, then you could assign extra practice, or you could. I liked it when some of my kids from last year. I taught fourth grade, but some of them weren't on a fourth grade level. But I could give them number sense, but take it back, and I could go back and assign the lessons that were a grade lower that built up to that number sense. I think if you can do that, that is very effective for your class planning.
Okay, great. Okay, next one says, describe best practice recommendations you have for motivating students to use the software program.
And I think that you need to build in a reinforcer, and I think it needs to be built on progress. Like you got this lesson done, and you passed this many lessons, and you did it the first time. Or I think that if you had time to really go through your data and keep track of that, I think kids would be a lot more motivated and be more into it for sure. And I think you'd get better results. So I think you need to build something in. I think they like the program, but if you can build in something that rewards progress, I think that helps a lot.
Okay, good. And then another one says, describe best practice recommendations you have for supporting students' learning through their use of software.
I think students like the software because it is their mode, that they're used to. I just think that you have to monitor it better. I think if you want to make sure learning is really taking place, you have to spend more time kind of looking over the data and seeing how each one of those students are doing to make sure that it is doing what you think what you're assuming that it did. I went back in and I looked at my data, and I could see that all my students had passed this many tests, but my one student was passing tests but at a much slower rate, which gave me some good information to know that she is doing it, but she's a lot slower at passing these tests than the rest of my kids, so I have to watch her a little closer. So it goes back to you just got to get in there and look at this data for sure, and time and data, provide the time and check your data.
Okay, good. So just overall, is there anything else that you would recommend as far as implementing best practices for this program?
I just wish that I had more say or more time, I don't know how to word that, on how I could use it best in my classroom. But because it's tied to a computer lab and you have to have someone down there to monitor the lab and you have to have your time slot, I think that holds me back.
Okay.
With the program.
Okay, great. And then this next section is about your experience using the software with students. So prior to running the software, what were your expectations about it?
I'm not sure if I had expectations. I was hoping that it would up my scores, and I didn't get those results because I didn't get consistent use. But I watched the third graders in my school last year who had the use during their regular time when they were supposed to use it, and went in regularly for an extra time period. They got much better results.
Okay, good. And then after running the software with your students, what was your experience of student motivation and interest in using the software?
I think my kids get excited about going in there because it's something different, and it's not always listening to someone give instructions. It's a different mode of instruction. But I also think that if I encourage them and monitor their growth and put an incentive with it, I think that makes all the difference. Just offering them a reward if they weren't those clickers made all the difference in the world. They tried so hard, and they were so excited. Did we do it? Did we do it? They asked me, and it took long because it took over a week for all of my kids to finally get done. So they were really, I could tell they were excited because they asked me every day, did we make it? Did we make it? So I think that is a key. I think, like I say, I think the software is motivating. They like it, but I think these kids need that extra motivation and that knowing you're watching or monitoring or whatever you want to call it.
That's great. Okay, one more. So after running the software with your students, what was your experience of students' improvement in reading because of using the software?
I haven't looked at my scores yet, but he said our overall scores have gone up for sure. I haven't looked at my test yet on my reading that we just finished the reading test, and I haven't looked at my scores. My team and I haven't done that yet, but he has looked at them, and he said the scores have improved. So I need to go in and look at my scores, which I need to find time to do that.
Okay, great. Well, that's all the questions I have. Is there anything else you want to add to this interview?
No, I think you guys, it's pretty extensive.
All right, good.